Hi, this is Angelo Bruscus for NorthBeachNow.com and North Beach Community TV, and we're here at the Ocean Shores Convention Center for what will be the final debate between candidates for the Ocean Shores City Council positions that are open in this general election, November 2nd. Tonight we have the candidates for position number 1 and one of the candidates for position number 5. And both candidates for position number 7. Patrick Doherty, one of the candidates for position 5, will not be here. Lisa Scott is here, however. And we have the two candidates for position 1, Susan Canary and Eric Noble, and the two candidates for position 7, Patrick Hayes and Rich Hartman. And here we go with the debates sponsored by the Greater Grays Harbor, Inc. group. And they'll be giving an overview here shortly.
All right. Well, welcome to the Ocean Shores City Council Candidate Forum. I appreciate you all being here tonight. Hopefully you were able to submit your question to the bowls over there. We have gone through them all and we're organizing them as we speak. But I want to introduce myself first of all. I'm Lynette Buffington. I'm the CEO of Greater Grays Harbor, Inc. I have only been in the area since July of 2020, and this marks the first in-person microphone event I've been able to present at since July of 2020. So thank you for being my debut audience. I really appreciate it. I will get into the format of this event shortly, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as to the operations of this and what you can expect as candidates and people in the audience as well. So. There's also an Ocean Shores branch of Greater Grays Harbor, Inc., and that organization has an advisory council. And that group the whole mission of that group is to focus on the business interests of Ocean Shores and making sure the business community is moving along. So if you hear the Ocean Shores branch referenced, that is what we're talking about. It is a branch of our larger organization, Greater Grays Harbor, Inc. We also want to remind everybody that it is required that you are masked during this event. We will do our best to make sure people can be heard and they can project through the microphones. I will probably change my mask into something a little bit easier to breathe through than this branded one right now. But just a reminder, that is a policy of the facility. We also wouldn't be here without sponsors, and we had some great sponsors to ensure that we can use this wonderful space. We'd like to thank Windermere Real Estate, John L. Scott Real Estate, North Beach Realty, Coldwell Banker, Ocean Shores Broker, and of course the Ocean Shores Convention Center staff. They are the reason why everything's set up so beautifully and efficiently for you all. So thank you to everybody. This is what you can expect tonight. The audience has submitted questions. We are grouping those into common themes and identifying what questions are appropriate for any or all candidates and making sure that we're not just pointing out to one specific candidate. We have both a sponsor and a radio personality, Kyle Polly from KXRO, who just stepped away to help us go through those questions and find commonalities and support me in my moderating. So candidates, you don't need to remember all of this. I'll walk you through it because it would be a lot of writing, all right? Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute introduction. Since we are a business organization, I hope somewhere in there you can include something about your support, awareness, involvement with economic development or business. If you'd like to include that, that would be appreciated. After introductions, each candidate will be asked a question and they'll have 2 minutes to respond. Their opponent in the race will also have 2 minutes to answer the same question. And then the candidate I asked the question to first will have 1 minute to rebut. So each question will take a total of 5 minutes. 2 minutes for the first person to respond, 2 minutes for the second person, and then a 1 minute rebuttal. Each of you will do that twice. We will flip the order. If a candidate does not have an opponent available or in attendance, that candidate will get 3 minutes to answer the question. And of course, we would hope they would not rebut themselves. So that's how the single candidate is handled. At the conclusion of those back and forth questions that I just spoke of, we will address one question to each candidate, so they will all answer the same questions. They will get 2 minutes to answer that question, and there'll be no rebuttal. It'll just be a straight answer. If we have enough time, we'll do that twice, and then we'll have closing statements for 2 minutes. And again, I will walk you through this. You don't need to memorize the puzzle I just described to you all. You have a timer over there, so please watch for that. When it expires, you'll hear time, and I ask that you stop. If you have to finish a sentence, that's fine. Finish a complete paragraph, thought longer than that, please don't do that. Please be respectful of everybody and the clock. The only other thing I think I want to add is just to the audience and the candidates, be respectful to each other. Please no commentary or outbursts that would jeopardize time on the clock or the ability for the audience to hear the folks speaking. It is hard enough to project through a mask, through a microphone. We don't need to make it harder for folks to hear or for candidates to address. And again, continue to respect the facilities rules. Any questions from the candidates? Okay, I'm going to change masks because this is challenging. All right, that's a heck of a lot better. So we are going to open with opening statements. The timer will start when you start speaking, just so you're aware, so check over there to know. Opening statements begin with candidate Canary, followed by candidate Noble. So candidate Canary, when you're ready to do your opening statements, you can start. I think you all worked with the microphones. I ask when you're not speaking, you turn them off. And if you're looking down when you're speaking, it's going to be hard for the mic to pick you up. So it's okay to bring it down towards your mouth, especially if you're having to tilt your head downwards. And so candidate Canary, whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, Lynette. Holding public office is a challenge that requires us to rise above the fray, to reach beyond comfort zones, and to work with others with whom we may have significant differences. Most of what we do on council calls for spending your money wisely and keeping a close eye on how public policy impacts your lives. From passing nuisance ordinances to halting roadside spraying, your health and safety continues to be my top priority. Unlike my opponent, I took advantage of training opportunities that provide the framework for my decisions. Unlike my opponent, I created extensive opportunities for public engagement. Unlike my opponent, I have enjoyed every minute I have served you. When he states being a council member is not always a pleasant job, I laugh. Yes, it can be a challenge, particularly when many of my suggestions are met with cold displeasure by my colleagues, but never discouraged, knowing that like the farmers who watered their giant bamboo every day for 4 years before a single sprout breaks through, I never lost faith that eventually there would be change. I was right. It took 3 years, and now at last we have committees so we can work effectively together on projects we are passionate about. With major issues facing us like public safety and health care, maintenance of our fresh waterways, aging water pipes, businesses unable to fully staff due to lack of workforce housing, taking care of those we serve is more important than ever. Being an effective council member means putting in long hours and finding pleasure out of small victories, like making a difference in the life of one person. That is why I serve, why I love my job. I am Susan Canary, and I am running for position number 1. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Candidate Noble, when you're ready.
Okay. Ocean Shores is a very special place. I moved here over 7 years ago and have done my best to always be involved. I love this town and all it can be. Since the pandemic, we have gone through a great deal of change. We now have an opportunity to address some of the big issues we face, fixing our fresh waterways so they will always be maintained, addressing sidewalks and parking to better the safety on Point Brown Avenue, fully supporting our police and fire departments. The fresh waterways are a jewel and need a concerted effort to support from the city, the citizens, and the Fresh Waterways organizations. That means starting a department in Public Works under the Stormwater Division. It will probably mean raising rates at some point, but it would always be a priority for me to take it to an advisory vote of the residents. Point Brown is a long-term project that will take getting grant money, involving everyone in the design and providing off-street parking for the businesses. The police department desperately needs a new upgraded facility, and we need to open the South Fire Station. I have been endorsed proudly by the local firefighters union. Getting these projects moving takes leadership. I have over 25 years of administrative and management experience. I know how to work with people and staff, and I understand complex budgeting. I was called out earlier by my opponent saying that that kind of experience isn't a valuable trait for a council member. I disagree. It brings a great deal of value. She stated that my experience was more suited for a run for the mayor, not something I want to do. If that has merit, that does not qualify her for her 2 runs for mayor. We need qualified individuals on our city council who listen and discern, and then go beyond listening to, in a wise manner, look at all of the information gathered and make a competent decision. I always strive to do that. I will continue to do so going forward. Experience and knowledge combined with integrity are what I bring to the council. Despite what some of the folks have accused me of on social media, I will represent you by making decisive actions to benefit the city and move us into a bright future for all.
Time.
Thank you. Candidate Scott, and although you don't have an opponent, it's still only 2 minutes for opening statement.
Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. I know it's been a challenging election season, and we're winding down, and I really do appreciate everybody taking the time to be here. My name is Lisa Scott, and I'm running for the City Council, City of Ocean Shores, Position 5. I was appointed to the City Council in February of this year and hope to continue in that capacity. My challenger, Patrick Doherty, was unable to attend this evening due to a prior medical appointment, and for that I'm sorry. It's not as much fun without somebody here to debate with. My story in Grays Harbor started when my family moved here in 1979, and I have been on the harbor ever since. I've lived almost in every city that we have in Grays Harbor, and I have been so lucky to call Ocean Shores home since 2013. And actually, yes, I do live here. It has been a very interesting experience since stepping on City Council. I have learned a tremendous amount. Coming from a city government background, I would thought that the learning curve probably wasn't as steep, but it is. I learn something new every day. One of the things that I'm really proud about is that the City of Ocean Shores finally has some surplus money in the budget with more funds coming through ARPA. Now is the time that we need to make decisions wisely. We need the citizens' input. We have a whole list of priorities that need to get done. Public safety is a #1 thing. We have police station that needs to be redone. We have a fire station that's undermanned and needs to be staffed. We have fresh waterways, fire break. There are so many challenges we have, and the best thing that we can do is work together as council to prioritize those lists of things that need to get done and do them and spend the money wisely.
Time.
Hope I can continue with your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hartman.
Good evening. Running for office didn't seem to be that hard of a decision for me. The hard part has been enduring the campaign. Everyone comes up to you and says, "What were you thinking? You've got a great life and you've got newly found time to start enjoying the fun part of your life." Well, I want to acknowledge each and every candidate up here tonight for raising their hand and deciding to run for office. The keyboard warriors have nothing on this group of brave volunteers, and I'm proud to have thrown my hat in the ring with them. The city has many opportunities to improve the lives of its residents and visitors over the next 50 years. It'll all start with true teamwork right after this election. I have no doubt the council will be able to communicate better with each other and be more inclusive of all members' points of views and feelings. I'm excited to have the possibility of being a part of it and to be able to make the citizens of Ocean Shores even more proud of their city and of how the council gets along and makes true progress on the issues that are important to everyone. I've been in and around Ocean Shores for 20 years. I love it here. I've served on multiple volunteer boards and elected boards over the years that include the Washington State Auto Dealers, numerous advertising boards, the Montesano School Board, Ocean Shores Community Club Board, the Public Facilities District, the North Beach Economic Task Force, and the Ocean Shores Planning Commission, just to name a few. There's not been a board I've served on that wouldn't give me an excellent recommendation. In fact, right after this meeting, I leave to Seattle for an early morning Ford board meeting. I love Ocean Shores, and I want to be involved to help all that I can. I would be honored to be elected as your next Ocean Shores council person. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Hayes.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Hayes, running for Ocean Shores City Council, position number 7. It is well known I've been critical about the mayor and at times the council. So the question can be asked, how can you work with the mayor and council? My answer is simple. We all want what's best for Ocean Shores. It is our best interest to work together. That is the same with everyone else on the council and staff. I know how to negotiate and I know when to compromise. I research issues and can give compelling arguments to convince people to my point of view. However, I'd be working for you. If the collective you feel passionately about an issue, I will fight to be your advocate. We need 7 individuals with their own ideas, life experiences, and knowledge. We don't need a voting bloc that always teams up together. That's not what democracy is. This is how progress is stifled. I've been deeply involved in our city government, attending almost all council meetings, speaking at them, watching the Finance Committee, Planning Commission, Fresh Waterways meetings, and other city and non-city meetings. I do this to gain the knowledge and information about changes that will affect us all. I've come away from these sessions with the feeling that not all of us are being represented. Feedback is asked by the city and council from a chosen few. I felt the average citizen was not being fairly represented. In short, your voice is not being heard. I will represent each and every one of you. I do not want to serve for my personal gain. Every action I take will be for your benefit. We all want.
Thank you all. I appreciate your opening statements. We will now get into the individual questions. For candidates, again, who have an opponent here, I will ask the first candidate a question. They will have 2 minutes to answer. Their opposing candidate will also have 2 minutes to answer the same question. And then the originating candidate will have 1 minute to rebut. So I have taken all your questions in, and I've tried to theme them together or compound them together so I can get your ideas out. So please bear with me, candidates and audience, as I work through that. So this first question is for candidate Scott, and you have 3 minutes to answer. With all the construction in the city, how important is it to you to preserve our wildlife habitat? So when you start speaking, the timer will start a 3-minute clock.
Thank you. Yes, Ocean Shores has experienced a tremendous growth and just a booming housing. We are losing our green spaces slowly. I think the way to combat that is through a comprehensive plan that addresses what the future of Ocean Shores look like, and then also coming through with strong zoning code that have regulations that maybe have stronger, deeper buffers for green space and wildlife. And then also I think that the city needs to look at maybe picking up additional property that is potentially undevelopable and creating additional green space.
Thank you. And I should add that nobody has to use all their time either. So,
do you want me to rebut that? No, I'm just.
No, you can rebut. You can disagree with yourself if you so choose. All right. Thank you. All right. This next question will start with candidate Noble to be responded to by candidate Canary. And this is along the lines of, I'll read you the question and talk about a key theme from some of the submissions. What do you believe are the top 3 priorities for the city of Ocean Shores to take on, and how can they make a difference to the residents of Ocean Shores? And a common theme from the audience is vision, planning, those type of themes. Is that, do you need me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay. So when you start speaking, you'll have 2 minutes, and then we'll pass it on to candidate community.
Yeah, so my 3 top priorities are not anything that anybody hasn't already heard. It's fresh waterways, for sure. It's the Point Brown parking and sidewalks, and it's public safety, all 3 of those. They are all different type projects. They're very large projects that will take a lot of time and a lot of coordination to do. I think the one that we can get done quickly and easily is the public safety with the upgraded police station. That is a critical thing that we need to do with our growth on the South Fire Station. Critical thing. We have $440,000 in our budget now for looking at the South Fire Station, so it is something we can get done hopefully sooner than later. Fresh waterways is definitely something. I'll talk about that a little bit. And how we tackle that, but it's coordinating with the city. The city needs a department, a public works department in the stormwater system that is funded and permanently so that we can keep up with it. What happens in Ocean Shores a lot is a lot of things happen, projects happen, but there's no reserves to keep them funded, so they start deteriorating, and then we get in a position where it costs a lot of money to take care of them. And the Point Brown, I think, is critical also. We need to look at grant funding. We had it at one time, and because of numerous situations, that funding had to be given back. But it has to do with parking for the businesses and sidewalks down the street and making it as safe as we can for all of the citizens. So it means working together, having town halls. I'm a huge advocate of town halls to get the input of all the citizens of what they want before we start these projects and before we go down these roads, and how we take care of them and how we fund them. So that's my 3 priorities.
Thank you. Candidate Canary, you'll have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. In many of the projects that my opponent has mentioned, we have not had the town halls that we should have. Unfortunately, COVID shut us down. Town halls was something that I did a great deal. When we had the issue of the fresh waterways come forward to the council with the request that we do more, the first thing I did was have a community forum to bring people in to listen to some who had history on what we had done before. My first priority is you. Your voice has to be heard. My opponent mentioned earlier that he thought an advisory vote would be a good thing to do. I don't think we need to go to that place. We need to just be having conversations with you along the way. When we talk about a vision, I actually looked it up, the definition, because we talk about vision all the time. And the definition is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. And I think that's very interesting because we don't do that a lot. We started out with our comprehensive plan, but we didn't meet with you. We didn't ask you what your vision was. We're going to roll out the comprehensive plan, and we're going to hope that the work that the Planning Commission did and the Council did reflects what you see as the vision of the future. I think we need to start turning that around. All of the things that my opponent mentions, of course, public health and safety, number 1. We've had lots of people talk about health care. We need to continue to work on that. I have a meeting on Thursday with the Vice President of Operations for CMAR Clinic to discuss whether or not there could possibly be a model change. There are a lot of things coming forward, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
And Candidate Noble, you have 1 minute to respond.
Sure. We have been working on vision for quite a while. When the comp plan, when I was on the Planning Commission, Jeff Daniel and I started working on that, and we had a great deal of public comment on that plan. My opponent says that I don't get public comment. I talk to people every day, all the time. During the pandemic, I had to go to work every day. I was at Ace Hardware every day. I was at IGA every day. I talk to people all the time. I necessarily don't have the time because I do work to have the community voices and everything, but I make calls. I sit down one-on-one with people. I am open to listening to anybody and everything, and I will never make these decisions that I'm talking about without public input and what is best for the city. But I will at some point, after I listen, make a decision and not just continue to listen to whoever you're listening to and tell them what they want to hear without coming to a point and make a
Time.
decision.
Thank you. All right, we will start with candidate Hayes on this next question. And I'll read the question and talk about themes that came in from the cards to consider including. According to the 2020 census, the population of Ocean Shores has grown by over 16% since 2010. As the population grows, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the city to address in order to accommodate the growth? The themes from the audience submitted questions were balancing tourists versus residents, and also the large number of retirees seeking to relocate here. Those are common themes. Do I need to repeat that or, okay. So candidate Hayes, you will have 2 minutes, and then candidate Hartman 2 minutes, and then back to candidate Hayes for a 1-minute rebuttal. When you start speaking, the timer will start the clock.
This comes under, I wrote notes about a vision because every time we have these things, the vision comes up. And I see in the future that Ocean Shores has solved its identity problems. By following the comprehensive plan, we removed the pyramid zoning and decided on architectural themes, and we beautified the retail district. Since our lots have been built out, we need to replace almost $1 million in permit fees as a revenue source, and we do this and did this by promoting the beach and our fresh waterways and city events throughout the summer. Our new motto is, there's always something to do in Ocean Shores. We have sidewalks downtowns, paid by grants, sales tax, and businesses themselves. Although we've not found one tourist who has claimed they came to Ocean Shores to walk on our sidewalks. We have a thriving tourist industry, due partly to our communal dining, outdoor dining, and our food trucks. We no longer leave the city unprotected because our fire personnel are transporting citizens to get emergency services. The ambulance service has picked up that slack. And because of the firestorm of 2025, the mayor declared an emergency, and now we have fire breaks. There's still no ferry, as all work stopped on getting that 1 week after the 2019 election. So it's a symbiotic relationship. We need the tourists. The more tourists that we get, the less taxes we pay and more services we get. And that's my answer.
Thank you. Candidate Hartman.
Thank you. The question, as I recall, was how to handle growth in the city.
Yes, with some audience question themes around balancing tourism or tourists versus residents, and also the large volume of retirees in the community.
The first thing that I see is the issue that we've got with city staffing. Anytime we're talking about growth, we need to talk about the realities of our city staff being, at this point in our lives, understaffed. We're operating on staffing levels from years ago, levels of tourism and population. But in 2020, we had 100,000 more guests in the city of Ocean Shores than previous year. We're not having that same increase in 2021, but we're so far ahead of where we were. We've got to consider that, and I don't think that most of the residents realize how many extra people a month come into the city. So the first thing you think about, and we've all spoken about it, is the fire department and the EMS being grossly understaffed. We have to address that immediately. We know that the police department is in a horrible situation with trying to fill their empty spots with officers. And then we can consider what our residents and our builders deal with in understaffed city departments in planning and permitting. We all know how hard it is for those folks to keep up with us, how long it takes for the phone calls back, how long it takes for the emails back. They're overworked, they're underappreciated, and we've got to focus on staffing for sure. We also need to be aware in everything that we do in the city to consider how is this going to affect the businesses that are left in our city. We all have seen an exodus of at least retail, or I should say service industry like restaurants. It's a hard business, and they've been highly affected. And we need to think about everything that we do and how it affects their health. And I'll add into that the hotels. And what is it that the city can do to help them stay healthy so that they'll reinvest the money into their hotels and keep them viable? Because they have to put money back into these hotels for the tourism or the tourists to want to come back into our city.
Time.
Thank you. All right, we have cycled through the first round. Good job. Candidate Hayes. Oh, I'm sorry,
no.
You're rebut. I'm sorry, I didn't check you off right there. You got it. You're up.
I get a rebuttal?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got excited.
Okay, me too. Okay, first of all, Rich keeps saying we need to have a fully staffed city. Surprisingly, we do. If you look at the latest organizational chart, we have one police officer and one part-time tech, planning tech, and those are unadvertised positions. We all agreed on the 3 Safer Grant firemen, EMTs, and the extra firemen. So we're fully staffed. We don't need more people. And if we do, the mayor will come to council and request more people. That hasn't happened. And the ones we have are unadvertised. They're not trying to fill them.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, too. If you guys see me sleeping at the wheel, please don't hesitate to give me a heads up. All right, so we have now gone through the first round, and I will move on to the second round. This will start with candidate Canary, and then responded to by candidate Noble, and of course, a rebuttal minute by Canary. I am going to summarize 2 questions that were submitted together on the same theme. What tools do you feel you have to be able to encourage and achieve the much-needed code enforcement for our city? I know code enforcement is a large topic within the council, so the residents of Ocean Shores are curious about how to address that. Candidate, excuse me, did I say Noble or Canary first? I just want to clarify what I said to you. Candidate Canary. Okay. We're ready when you are.
Thank you. Rather an interesting question. I don't think that I have tools that I can help code enforcement, but what we have done since the police reform bills went through the state legislature and have caused an issue for our police department in terms of dealing with certain things in town, we have activated Neighborhood Watch. Neighborhood Watch is the eyes and ears for our police department. These people in the neighborhoods are going to report anything that they see to our manager, who is Randy Peck, and he will then report to the police department. It is my hope that through Neighborhood Watch, we will be able to fill the gap that we have right now. But the next part of that is rather than a part-time code enforcement person, we need a full-time. We need 2 full-time code enforcement people to be able to cover all of the things that need to be done in Ocean Shores. When we have the conversations often, when the RVers come in and they are asking us for either a longer time to stay or they want more vehicles on their property, the neighbors all come back and say, you don't have enough code enforcement to cover any issues that might happen. And that is something we have to address before we start changing anything. Citizens have been saying for a long time, enforce the ordinances that you have on the books. We need to do that, and the way we do it is to have another full-time code enforcement officer so it can be done correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Noble, when you're ready.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, and I agree with Susan. We just had a presentation by our city planner, Marshall Reed, at the Monday night city council meeting, and he is doing a phenomenal job of going out and enforcing all of our clearing lots and things like that. He's got a huge backlog to take care of, but he's doing an amazing job, and it was very encouraging to hear what he was saying about how the contractors are responding to it and not doing their lot clearing, and how well he is actually doing. The one thing he said he doesn't like to do is be the enforcer, but it was pretty amazing how well he is now working with the police department to help on some of the egregious things that come up, which there are not too many of those. Also, in all of the other things, I do agree. We need 2 full-time code enforcements. I think the whole planning and permitting department needs to be staffed. We need another planning person that can take the load off of Marshall a little bit so he can be out in the field making sure all of the construction is up to code and are doing what they're supposed to be doing. We'll need another permitting tech also, and I think we will need another, we're 12 weeks behind in pushing permits out right now, and a inspector for inspecting all the houses. When it comes to, I'm excited about the block watch. I think that's an amazing thing that can help. You know, there's tons of little things that come up on loose dogs and things that need to be taken care of, and one person, 1.5, cannot take care of it all. So I agree we need to beef up the department a little bit, but we are moving in the right direction based on what Marshall was saying, and I'm very encouraged by that.
Thank you. And Candidate Canary, when you're ready, just let our timer get the
Thank you.
clock ready.
What I would like to do is just ask our citizens to help and do their part. Many people take to social media and they complain there, and it doesn't get anything taken care of, believe me. What you have to do is either join a neighborhood watch, or if you're not quite ready for that, please call the non-emergency dispatch number anytime that there is an issue, so that it can be logged in and our police department or code enforcement can do something about it. You can be part of the solution here, and I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody honoring the clock too. I know it's challenging to do, so I appreciate that. All right, we will start with Candidate Hartman to be responded by Candidate Hayes and rebutted by Candidate Hartman. This is verbatim from the question box. What are the upcoming challenges regarding the golf course in the next 2 to 4 years, and how do you feel they can best be addressed?
Thank you. Challenges regarding the golf course. Operationally, we know that we need to finish the irrigation project, and I believe that's been almost fully funded in the budget and needs to be passed through the City Council. We have a slight challenge coming up in our future. We have a golf course on the books going in to Westport, and we have locals that have put quite a bit of money behind the project to bring in a world-class golf course to that city, and that is going to start being the new shiny toy that people are going to want to go to, and it'll hurt us a little bit. What we can continue to do is support the current or the future franchisee, right now it's Kurt Zander, to listen and help keep ourselves on top of the projects that we need to do on this golf course. And it's like any other public building or public structure. We have to keep on top of it for the long-term health of the city. It's a great asset for us. It brings in a lot of people. They just had a tournament here, I believe, a week or so ago with 244 golfers. So I know there's been a lot of talk of the golf course and the issues. I know that Mr. Zander is a passionate franchisee. He leases the golf course from the city, and he's felt attacked for a very long time, and I believe we're working through all of those issues. I'm excited that for the first time in the history of the world, every single candidate and every single council person supports Mr. Zander and the direction of keeping the golf course viable. It's extremely exciting time for us. I see nothing but good things, but it's like any other city act.
Time.
We can't forget about it.
Thank you. Candidate Hayes, you have 2 minutes.
The challenges for the golf course are many. As Rich said, we're putting $400,000 towards the latest irrigation project. We had $300,000 a couple of years ago on the irrigation, but I think it's time we stop and look at the golf course and say, is it paying its way? We need to possibly renegotiate that contract. We're not making any money off it. We only have so much money here in the city, and we have other needs. We have the needs of the fresh waterways. We need crosswalks. We need fire breaks. There's only so much money to go around, and we do not get a dime from the golf course. We need to reevaluate that. As for Westport getting a new golf course, everyone gets new golf courses. We have to decide, all of us as citizens, is it our number one priority? If it is, we'll put more money into it. But he's responsible for the maintenance of the buildings and the land. We do the capital improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Hartman, you have 1 minute to respond.
I appreciate on paper that it might appear that we're not making any money on the golf course, but what's more important is we're not losing any money on the golf course. Mr. Zander has put, I'm going to basically say it was a swap. He paid to do major repairs to bridges and other things involving the course in lieu of rent. And that won't continue unless that's a decision that the mayor and city council make in the future. So I want to be clear on that. The only thing that scares me the most about the golf course and being upset with the franchisee is someone suggesting that the city run it themselves and hire their own golf pro, their own maintenance staff, their own general manager. If you want to talk about losing money, that's how we would lose money. Thank
you. All right, candidate Scott, you'll have 3 minutes. This is a verbatim question. It's a verbatim comment that I'm going to turn into a question. Okay. After all these years, why has so little been done to maintain and restore the fresh waterways? So it is a question asking about past action, and I would like to elaborate on that to talk about potential future action. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you. I don't have too much on the past action, as I haven't been here as long as many others in the audience. With any city asset, cities aren't always the best at maintaining them, whether it's buildings, infrastructure. It's usually some of the first things to get cut in times of crisis, and the fresh waterways is no exception. They were built, the city has tried numerous things through the years to try to help reduce some of the issues with that, with the irrigation system, and it's just not working. The city needs to regroup, take time, and figure out, working with the fresh waterways, what that looks like. What are those list of priorities, and how do we get them done? We can't do this without the fresh waterways or the citizens' involvement in that. So the future, I agree with I guess everybody that I've heard speak, not just tonight, but through this campaign, and that is we need to start funding it fully. And whether that is a department in the city, whether that's a fee, I think those are conversations that we need to have with the public to figure out what that looks like. There are there's many options that we can do to take care of the problem. There's all kinds of suggestions that have been made of buying this piece of equipment, dredging, hand removing vegetation. It's a challenging topic, and I think it's one that warrants much more conversation and input. And I know that sitting on council, we heard from the Fresh Waterways Committee, and they're going to be bringing back their list of priorities to the city after the first of the year. And that's when we can sit down, roll up our sleeves, and start prioritizing of how we get those done.
Great, thank you. All right, so we have gone through the back and forth questions. Now I'm going to go into the segment of the program where you all are asked the same question, and you all get 2 minutes to respond to that. All right, so if you need to take a swig of water or anything, this is the time to do it. In this series, I will start with candidate Hartman. and then just progressively work through everybody in the order of their race, their council race. A multimodal transportation system, so cars, pedestrian, bikes, etc., is a key element of the Ocean Shores experience. What do you believe the city needs and can do to reduce and remove non-vehicular versus vehicular conflicts and improve safety? And I could repeat that if anybody needs me to. Okay. A multimodal transportation system, so cars, pedestrian, bikes, etc., is a key element of the Ocean Shores experience. What do you believe the city needs and or can do to reduce or remove non-vehicular versus vehicular conflicts and improve safety?
Thank you for the extra time.
You're welcome. All right, when you start speaking, our timer will start a 2-minute clock. And again, the yellow light, the green's going when you're good to go. The yellow light is when you have 30 seconds, correct? And of course, red means stop. So when you're ready.
Thank you. The first and least expensive and most immediate thing that I can think of, and it's going to sound silly, but I do live on Ocean Shores Boulevard, and in other cities that I'm in, they're very good about painting the picture of the bike on the street so that vehicles are paying attention to the fact that they're sharing the road. It sounds silly, but it's an important thing that we can do in this town. We have tons of traffic up and down our main arterials with tourists, especially Ocean Shores Boulevard. We can start by stenciling the Share the Road stencils on Ocean Shores Boulevard to help make people aware, and add as many bike lanes as we can around town without having to blacktop things. We can add lanes. I would like to continue to work with council if I'm elected and pursue the High Dunes Trail that's already on the books. I think that's a massive asset that will happen for our city. To have a safe and accessible downtown, I think it's going to take a grant like we did before, where they had invested a lot of time and effort. I think they need to bring the stakeholders in to really address it, but to have the Gateway project on Point Brown to where we have a safe and accessible downtown core for all of our residents primarily, but obviously all of our tourists too. And that's where our grant writers become imperative, and I know we just lost one, so we need to work on that because we have tons of federal stimulus that are, as we all know, coming available, and our city should be at the top of the list, especially for our Gateway project. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hayes?
I've advocated this since the beginning of my campaign, that we need better walkways and trails on the major streets. I've seen wheelchairs being pushed down the road because they can't access a sidewalk. I have a neighbor that was critically hurt because she was hit by a car because she wasn't walking on a sidewalk. I think we could close the downtown, and I'm thinking off the cuff here because I haven't put any thought into it, but I've heard of plans or suggestions of making Point Brown in the business district pedestrian friendly, no vehicles. That's not a bad idea. We need the rental bikes and carts to stay out of the middle of the road. As we're driving around, we go to IGA or we're going down to the kite store. They're in the middle of the street. We need a bike path for them. And that's it.
Thank you. Am I the only one hearing the rain down for? It is quite significant. Okay. All right, the same question to you, Candidate Scott, and you remain with a 2-minute like everybody else.
Thank you. I think what we refer to it as kind of a road diet, and it's taking a look at what's there now and what improvements. I agree with Mr. Hartman on those sharrows. I think they're called sharrows. So when you have just the awareness between the bike and the motor vehicle, and what it is it's just meant to make people aware that you're sharing the road with a bicycle. And it's just those little steps that you can do to make the driver aware that there are pedestrians. Ocean Shores definitely lacks sidewalks. That is an expensive endeavor, but one that as a community, we can make those decisions of where they need to go and where they should go. Connections between bike paths, trails, and the downtown, that's really important. We're missing some connections. Also, Point Brown in particular, there's a ton of traffic. That's where a lot of our tourists go. You have vehicles backing onto the road from parking spots. You see people struggling to push strollers. You see children on bicycles trying to dodge potholes in cars. It's not safe. There definitely needs to be an overhaul on Point Brown, and one that not only works for pedestrians, but our businesses as well, because our businesses do rely on those vehicles for their business, and we want to encourage that tourism traffic. So again, it's really important just to make those drivers aware that there are pedestrians that utilize that area. Also, the High Dunes Trail is a wonderful example of encouraging people to get toward our ocean and having a safe place to walk, because not everybody can walk on the sand. So we definitely have some challenges in the multimodal transportation, but I think that that's an area that we can tackle.
Great, thank you. Candidate Canary and then Candidate Noble, 2 minutes each.
My father is from England, and when he left California and went back to England, one of the first things he said to me was, after being gone 37 years, he couldn't even believe the changes. The little villages had stopped allowing cars to drive through. When you come to the villages, there is a parking area. They have a trolley of some kind, and you can get on that trolley, and it will take you to the businesses and the shops. They actually charge money for the parking. My father was a little concerned about that. But it is the way that they have handled it in England. And they have the same weather we do. It's reminding me as we hear it on the roof. And I know that one of the concerns that I've heard from the businesses is, if we were to do that and make downtown pedestrian friendly, would people really come to the businesses? So if we ever do have that conversation, we need to have it with the business community and whether or not it would work. If we don't do a parking area at the beginning of town, we need to have parking areas in town. It is one of the problems that we have. People will drive to a store, then they drive to the next one, and they drive to the next one. If we had a parking area, a parking garage, we could encourage more people to walk. Then we would have reasons to go after the grants to get the sidewalks. Another thing we could do is reduce the speed in Ocean Shores, and I think that would make a big difference. We have a problem with speeding because there are different speed limits in different areas of town. I think it's time to look at that. We're not going anywhere in a hurry in Ocean Shores. This is the beach. Reduce the speed. We can share the roadways if the cars are not going quite so fast. And we could also we're talking about putting signs up, and you were talking about painting. I would like to see us paint the speed limit signs actually on the road.
And that is time, candidate.
Thank you.
Candidate Noble.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Ocean Shores was built as an automobile town. When they platted it out, we have 126 miles of roads. They didn't plan on sidewalks. They planned on everybody driving everywhere. So anything that we're going to do of substance is going to be expensive. I think we definitely need to expand our bike trails. If we could get grants for the High Dune Trail all the way down to Marine View Boulevard, we can put a bike trail down Marine View Boulevard to Point Brown, and you would have a circular bike path up Point Brown all the way around town. One thing that we've been working on a long time ago, and COVID stopped it, was the North Grand Canal Park. I think that would be hugely beneficial if we could put a park there with a lot of parking for boats, so residents who actually want to go downtown could use a boat to get down there as opposed to using roads. I think that would actually be a very cool thing to do. I think obviously the Point Brown corridor is paramount to get done to make us a safe and a much more walkable city, and parking definitely needs to be addressed, and there's ways to do that so that people park and then walk into Point Brown. I'm not sure making Point Brown non-cars is viable, but definitely something to look at. I'd also like to see, because you go to most resort towns, we already allow electric bikes to drive around town. We allow the mopeds to drive around town. I would like to see possibly looking at certifying golf carts that are certified to be able to drive around town. They're a little more, they're not safer if they get hit, but they're safer to drive. They're easier to drive, electric, and they're just not as big and clunky driving around town. I think it'll be difficult to make it what we would all want to be, that most roads have sidewalks and bike paths, but I would love to be able to see us start down that road, and with the comprehensive plan and with a focused plan that says we need to be bike-friendly.
That is time, Candidate Noble. Thank you. All right, I got through everybody, right? Okay, good. All right. So again, this is a question for everybody, and I will give a general question and then articulate a theme from an audience question. What can the Ocean Shores City Council and city staff do to ensure Ocean Shores is business friendly? The additional detail to that question is support local businesses and improve the aesthetics to encourage tourism. So it's about being business friendly, which would include, of course, supporting local businesses, and then improving the aesthetics that would hopefully encourage larger or greater amounts of tourism. So this starts with candidate Scott, and you will have 2 minutes.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's what we can do as city council and staff to be more business friendly and encourage aesthetics.
Yep.
So I think the Ocean Shores took an amazing step during COVID and remained open. And that was huge for staff, and it was huge for the city because we survived. Not only did we survive, we excelled. And I think by doing that, it is business friendly. We are encouraging that. We need our businesses because with our businesses, they support the tourism dollars, and it allows us to have those businesses for locals. And it is important. Without tourists, we're just going to have a lack of city services. So business friendly, it's doing things, I think creating a downtown association made up of the businesses and encouraging business after hours for those businesses so that maybe John down the street hasn't connected with Ralph down the street. And then having an opportunity to have that synergy between your businesses and supporting one another, because we need businesses to recommend other locations for places if they're not having those products available. So it's encouraging our businesses to just remember that we are a community and it's important. As far as aesthetics, yeah, there's room for improvement there, but that's going to be a difficult conversation. The Planning Commission has been working on this. They have a downtown plan that they are ferreting out, and it will be coming before council, which will take a look at those aesthetics and what it could look like and maybe what changes would happen from that.
Thank you. All right, next is candidate Noble.
Yeah, so I agree. I think we are reasonably business friendly. And I like the fact, I do know that, with the addition of Greater Grays Harbor and here in Ocean Shores, that they are working on a much better business association. What tends to happen is in the summer, businesses are so busy just running their business that it's hard to continue to get together and collaborate on what is best for the city. I think our zoning will help a lot in just like the downtown corridor. And just being more consistent. Also, I think with the new planning focus in the planning department, that we are consistent in our ordinances and not giving some people something which didn't happen too much, but I think would be, the businesses would appreciate knowing the consistency in the city and how we do it. I think advertising the town, before this building was built, one time they had about a $400,000 advertising budget that they would advertise up in Seattle, and that would help people coming to the shores. You know, I think that that's an important thing to do. It means paying down the debt on this building so that we would have more LTAC money for advertising. Yeah, and I think a big thing is aesthetically, just getting our town to where it looks pleasing and accommodating. One thing I think we really need to work on are our beach accesses and signs to our beach accesses that encourage people to use the beach, but also to use it in a sustainable way, to not leave the garbage. And I think that that would help people who are coming down here to feel better about the town, and it would get more people to come down here that would use our businesses. So there's a lot of things we can do. I think coordinating with the business association, and then as the city, mainly just not doing things to discourage business, but helping them. But we can't bring businesses in. That's up to them, you know.
Thank you. Candidate Canary, same question.
Thank you. One of the things we did for our hotels was we started a hotel coalition, and we meet monthly. And through that monthly meeting, we have been able to find certain things that the hotels were lacking. I go to these meetings as a liaison, not as a representative from the council. We've been able to get a few things done for the hotels because of having that coalition. And I would be hopeful that we could do the same sort of thing for the businesses. When we were given the CARES funding during COVID, there were several council members who wanted to give that money to the businesses. That didn't happen, but we didn't have any businesses coming to the council and asking us for help. And so I think it has to be a two-way street. I agree with the consistency of regulations. I think we also need to make decisions a little quicker than we are. We're discussing the communal outdoor dining, and we keep putting this off in terms of making a decision. Those businesses that invested heavily to have their outdoor tents would like to know whether or not the council is going to allow those to remain. And we are not deciding that quickly enough, I don't think, for those businesses. In terms of aesthetics, we need to all have civic pride. We need to come together collectively and do that. There are downtown revitalization grants. We've never looked into doing that, at least not since I've been here. And I think that would be a major step in bringing everyone together and having the same feeling that we want to make downtown look good. We want our businesses to thrive. If they thrive, we do. We should encourage new business. And how do we do that? Yes, advertising.
Time, thank you. All right, same question, Candidate Hayes.
God, idiot. We need to review our business ordinances. We need to get rid of outdated ones and ones that conflict with each other. We need to have the Planning Commission come up with an architectural design that we all can live with for the downtown area, so we have a consistent look and feel for the tourists and for the citizens. We need to pass more. In fact, no, we don't. We don't need to pass more ordinances. We need food trucks because happy tourists spend money. We need to get better metrics from the tourists coming in. We have no idea where they come from, what brought them here, why they came, anything. We just, out of the blue, decide we've put 1,500 heads in beds when we have no idea. We need to start gathering this data. Data is king. And we need to promote the town better. We need better tourism advertising, like someone said here. I agree. Advertising is the one thing that doesn't cost money. It always pays. And that would be it.
Is that it? Okay. Candidate Hartman?
May I have Patrick Doherty's time as well? I have a long list.
I'm sure you do, but you have 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to reinvent something that Miss Lisa does in the city of Aberdeen. It's called the Good Neighbor Fund. I would really encourage City Council to consider taking some of the CARES money that we got and putting it in a fund that is then able to be loaned out to businesses to work on their facades. It's happened in Aberdeen. I've taken advantage of it. They have low interest loans for businesses. We pay the money back. It goes back into the pot, and it's a continuing pot of funds that the city is able to use to help with what we were discussing with the fascias and other things to improve the exterior of the buildings. I was on the North Beach Economic Task Force during COVID. We had so many things that we brainstormed with the business owners in town and me and some others, and to help all the businesses through COVID. We tried to interpret the things that the governor was giving us so that they could understand them better. Temporary tents that was just talked about. That was during that time frame that we tried to help. So the city helped the businesses by allowing them to work with temporary tents. That was part of what came out of that task force. Wayfarer Signs is another thing that came out of the Planning Commission and task force, and the city is working on it. And those are the cute, good-looking signs that are around different tourists and resort cities that direct citizens, but mostly tourists, to different parts of the city, to different businesses. And then the convention center continuing to be proactive with all the businesses so that the businesses know when the groups are coming into town to fill the convention center so that they can possibly be ready and staffed up and at least be aware of all the people coming to town. Sorry, I think that's all my notes.
All right, thank you. So because you've been all so cooperative with the clock, we do have more time for these general questions. I'm sure you're super excited for me to throw another one at you. So in this order, we will start with candidate Noble. I'll read the question and then address a theme as well. Housing availability is a top issue for every community in our county, specifically workforce housing. What do you consider the city's role to be in addressing this problem, and how will it improve the situation? Many of you have addressed the permitting challenges and timeline. You could include that in your response, but if you had anything else to add to that about the city's role in helping the housing availability, that would be appreciated.
So just,
yes.
The question is housing availability?
Right, and what can the city itself do as
Housing.
Not necessarily everything under the sun, correct? So, yes.
Yeah. Housing availability.
And I could repeat it again if you'd like me to.
I guess, is it for people to buying houses or
workforce?
For
so for your
development?
workforce.
Okay.
Can your workforce afford to live in the community in which they work?
I got it. Yeah, that's definitely a tough one when the housing prices have done what they've done here in Ocean Shores. And I know for the business I manage, I used to get tons of people when I would put out an application for a position from Ocean Shores, Ocean City. This last year, it took me 6 months to find one person, and they're commuting from Central Park. So it's a huge issue. One thing maybe, it's just an idea of looking at, that I actually got from a hotelier, was if the tribe isn't using the sweetgrass, is it possible to turn that into a housing authority for workforce development, putting it back to apartments and using that as transient housing up to 1 to 2 years for people that specifically work in retail and housing. Partnering with the tribe if we can. They own down at Hogan's Corners. They have the same issues that we have here in getting quality staff to work in their service industries, and can they build housing down there that could be affordable? Getting housing here at the beach is difficult at best just because of the pricing, and I don't know that the city should or could put a mandate on certain businesses or places to build affordable housing for workforce development. So we have to be very creative. We have to be able to figure that out. I know I lost one person who wanted to work at my resort because she lived in a RV trailer, and when she looked at coming out here, there was no place to park it. So I know we can't do that on vacant lots, but in other cities I've been to, can you put that on, if people have spare lots that they could rent out, is that an option? Possibly. I don't know if that's even something we should consider, but we do have to start thinking outside the box. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. I think coming together, listening to them, looking at the businesses, J1 visas, 2B visas, many options.
Thank you. Candidate Canary.
Thank you. My opponent suggested that the sweetgrass might be something that could be turned into workforce housing, and I was intrigued. So I contacted the CEO of the casino, and they gave me the answer that no, they weren't interested in doing that because they're going to remodel it and turn it into a 4- or 5-star hotel. So I think it was a great idea. I hope that there might be something else that comes along, but at this point, that one's out. It is a difficult situation. If we try to encourage builders to put in low-income housing, they will tell you that they don't get the same return on investment. I've been to a number of these seminars through the county, and the contractors, they plead with them. Please come in and help us build these apartments, build this low-income housing. And they say, why would we do that? We don't get that return on investment. We get much more if we put in a custom home. So this is one of the problems that we have. We don't have a lot of area in Ocean Shores either to consider that. But I agree that there's not a whole lot that the city can do to make that happen. But what we have to do as a city is be aware of it and be working with the county, who is far more capable of doing this than we are. I think our biggest push has got to be to help people who are on the verge of losing their homes not lose them. This is really important. So though we're not addressing and getting other houses, we have to help people stay in the places that they're in at this particular point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hayes, same question.
Well, Susan took a lot of my thunder. I agree with her. This is a private industry problem. It's not something the city can get involved in, except the city could offer incentives. They could offer a multi-density incentive to any private company that wanted to come in and build housing. We could have a permitting fee reduction to incentivize them, or zoning variances. But this isn't something the city can solve. It's not what we do. If the private industry can make money, they'll come in and they'll do it. And as Susan said, they're going for the big money shot. They're building custom homes. So we can do what we can to make it easier for them, but we can't spend any of our money on our own. And I'm still green. Done.
Thank you. Candidate Hartman.
One of the things that we can address, and it has to go through City Council to approve it, is the Planning Commission. We are right now working on the comp plan for the city, and some of the things that we are considering putting forward to the City Council is in certain parts of the city having that ability to lower the square footage requirement for lot sizes. Less property, smaller homes, potentially less money for a home. So the city can help a little bit if they choose to do some zoning changes. We already have something that most cities don't have, and that's some of the properties on the north side of our city. People don't like to hear it, but it is affordable housing compared to where most of us moved from. We have housing here that used to be $150 a square foot that now is going for about $300. Go to Seattle or Portland, it's $600 a square foot. So we have a lot of people here that have enjoyed the difference in value and been able to move out here and put money in their pocket. The free market system is running away from rentals as we speak, which is another way for affordable housing. You talk about building apartments and things like that. Investors are running away from it because of the rent moratorium. It's stifling them. And they've decided to sell all these homes and get out of their complexes because the government is making it unprofitable for them. So Patrick's right. It is a free market system. And when a builder can come in here and collect his rents or her rents, we have a better chance at having affordable housing. But we are more blessed than many other cities, and the Planning Commission is working on trying to give the City Council some options that might help in the future.
Thank you. And Candidate Scott, close us out on this round.
Thank you. Housing availability, that is a very tough one. It's not just Ocean Shores, it's all of Grays Harbor that's going through that. Our workforce can no longer afford to stay in Ocean Shores and live, and the options for them to move further west or east aren't available anymore. We've got a problem. There are some things that I think the city can do, and I think Patrick Hayes mentioned them, and that's looking at incentives for people to develop multiple family affordable housing, and that's with zoning and density, and maybe there are some tax incentives that we can look at. I know it won't be a popular conversation to have, but one of the other areas of thinking outside the box is, can the city regulate zoning so that new hotels coming in or building, or maybe a major remodel, has to provide for workforce housing? That I know other areas have done that before, and again, it's not going to be a fun conversation, but we've got to start thinking outside the box because we're pricing ourselves out of having a workforce available to stay here. I always relate, there's a kid, and I say kid, that graduated and is from Ocean Shores that worked in one of the restaurants, and he and his girlfriend were paying $1,000 a month for a studio. And that's just not acceptable. We're going to have struggle getting workforce here if we can't provide adequate housing, or at least find ways to encourage that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I think we can fit in one more question and then closing statements if everybody can bear with us on this. The reason why I'm squeezing in this question is because it was common, and there wasn't one conversation I had tonight as I met with people that didn't reference this. So we will start with Candidate Hayes on this. Politics in Ocean Shores has become increasingly divisive, particularly on social media. What will you do, regardless of election status, to help reunite the community?
I've never been involved in something so angry and hostile as this election. And I apologize to everyone. It shouldn't come down to it. It's our side against your side, and that's ridiculous. It's us and only us. And what I would do is, no matter who wins, give them my 100% support and help them any way that I can. We need to heal, and we need to stop fighting amongst ourselves. Today, Rich was attacked, and it appalled me. And I called the person out, and I personally apologized to Rich, even though I had nothing to do with it. And this has got to stop. We're neighbors, we're friends, we're citizens, and we all live in the same spot. So I hope we heal, and I hope we stop this, because after I'm done here, I'm off Facebook, I'm off social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hartman?
The question was, what do we do to reunite the community?
After a particularly divisive campaign.
Ocean Shores is a unique city. It's only 50 years old. Everybody chose to move here. Everybody wrote a check to move here, except for a few hundred people that are almost our first generation of people. So we have people that are way more engaged than other cities. Social media is a unique situation out here. If you really, truly analyze the social media in this city, we're talking about, at best, maybe 100 people that are aggressive online. And the other 7,000 residents, you know, turn their noses up at it and think how ridiculous it is, and half of them brag about how they don't even go on social media. So social media has raised a generation of keyboard warriors. I have personally experienced, as Patrick said, some aggression, and it's from people that don't know me. What's even more fun is they will call me out. They will see me at a meet and greet, and they won't even look me in the eye. They walk away because they want to call me out online and say, oh, I'll wait and see you tomorrow. And then you see them tomorrow, and they can't even look at you. They won't even engage with you. When we don't all have to have the exact same opinions, but we can all be civil with each other. And I don't want to paint this town as one big negative town, because it really isn't. It's a fraction of them, it's the micro minority of the people that are causing this divisiveness, and the rest of us are just wanting to be positive and do our jobs. More being on council, the more conversations with council and the more engagement we can do so that questions get answered is the key, in my opinion. I don't want to have a meeting every week because they don't seem to be that productive, but we need to have more meetings than we are now, and let the citizens that do want to be engaged have the opportunity of asking us directly.
Time. Candidate Scott?
Thank you. This has definitely been a very challenging election. I've never ran for public office before. I've sat on numerous boards, and never did I ever think that we would constantly, all of us, be called out for whether we live here, whether we're stupid, ignorant. It is amazing. To me, Ocean Shores is extremely fortunate that we have 6 individuals that are passionate and care about Ocean Shores and want to see what's best for this city. The divide that this election has created is huge. It's not insurmountable, but it's huge. There needs to be some healing that comes along with that. And I think one of those things is to regroup as a city and hold town halls, go out to the neighborhoods, find out what people are passionate about, what's important to them, and work together to solve that. Together we can do this, but we can't do it as we've been functioning. It is divisive, it is corrosive, and it needs to stop, and we need to heal. So working together as a community, we can do this.
Thank you. Candidate Canary.
So my take on this is very different. Ocean Shores is divided financially. We have those who live in the big houses on the water and workers desperately seeking affordable housing. We have those who see a rise in utility fees as nothing more than a bother, that they have to change their automatic payment, while others are barely making it. And COVID helped knock both of their socks off. There are people who eat out daily and think nothing of paying $42 for an entree at the bistro, while there are others making ends meet till the next allotment of food stamps. Some pay to enter a golf tournament with the proceeds going to the food bank, while others stand in line at the food bank for their twice-monthly distribution. It's those who change out their dishes because they are tired of the pink set. Those less fortunate search the thrift shop for the pink dishes that weren't the decor of the moment. And it's those who travel south to warmer climes in the winter, and those who shiver because they couldn't pay this month's utility bill. That's the division we have. And what we have to do as council members is realize that we represent each and every one of our citizens here in Ocean Shores. And we're making decisions that are impacting people's lives. We have to remember, it's not just the people going to the golf tournament, it is the people who are waiting at the food bank for that distribution. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Noble.
Yeah, I have a little different take also. During the last election before this, the same thing happened, not quite to the extent it has this time, and I chose to leave all of social media, and it was probably the best thing I ever did. So I'm not engaged that much. I hear quite a bit about it because people call me and say, did you know this, did you know that? But what I do know is some of the things that happen on social media, new people coming to town, and they go on those chat groups and they just see a city divided and ripped apart and angry and people hating each other. But when you go around Ocean Shores, I drive every day. I'm out and about in Ocean Shores, at the post office, at IGA, at the ACE, and I see a totally different city. I see a city that's friendly. I see a city that's happy. I see people that are engaged, that are talking to each other, that care about each other. That's what I see that Ocean Shores is day to day outside of social media. So social media is a cancer. There's some good things about it, but in this election it has been horrendous and some damage has been done that will take a long time. What I do is when I hear somebody has been calling me out, I call them up and I sit down and meet with them and I talk to them and I just try to get to know them as a person as opposed to somebody behind a keyboard. One of those meetings I had, it was actually pretty cool because the conversation went, there's a lot of passion in this election. And I hope after that election, this person said, we can take that passion and help move the city forward. And I think we can do that because after the election's over, let's come together as a city and get out behind your keyboard, get out and about in the town, go to the beach, see what's going on and what really Ocean Shores is. It's an amazing city with unbelievable people that do care about each other, not that hate each other on social media.
Thank you. All right, we are going into closing statements. You'll all receive 2 minutes to have your closing statements. You certainly don't need to use all 2 minutes. For those of you that submitted questions that either were baked into questions I asked, what I will share after my closing words is some of the themes that maybe didn't get addressed so the candidates know what was submitted. So you can be aware of that, but I'll do that at the very end, okay? So you, again, each have 2 minutes for closing statements. We'll start with you, Candidate Scott.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Ocean Shores is one of the most amazing cities that we have, I believe, in our state. We have amazing natural resources that we get visitors and locals that have chose to live here and build here because it's a wonderful community. I was recently asked the question of why I didn't involve myself more in local government prior to running. Interestingly enough, Mr. Hartman taught me a long time ago that time is one of the most precious gifts that we can use to give back to our community. My busy work schedule and volunteer activities had not allotted me a lot of extra time in the past. I have been able to tailor back and a lot of my outside and extracurricular activities that has provided me an opportunity to help serve the community that I am fortunate enough to call home, and that's Ocean Shores. I am running for office because public service is my passion. My mom served on city council in Montesano for 13 years, and that is where I was first introduced to local government. When an opportunity presented itself earlier this year, I jumped at the chance to serve on city council. I chose to run because I believe in this town for all that it is and all that it can be. One of my main priorities is the investment in public safety. We have a Southside fire station that needs to be manned 24/7 so that our ever-exploding South End has the same level of service. We have a police station that is operating out of a modular structure that was not even designed for the way it's being used. We are uniquely Ocean Shores, and I definitely understand this is not Aberdeen, nor would we ever want it to be, but I can and have brought my experience to the City Council. The only way to move our city forward is through thoughtful discussion, collaboration, and action. In closing, I'm proud to call Ocean Shores my home. I love this city and will continue to support her in every single way that I can. As we as a community have some healing to do after this election, and I hope I can count on your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Noble.
This election is critical for the future of Ocean Shores. We are in what is arguably the best financial position we have ever been in. I anticipate ending the year with a $1.5 million surplus. We are growing quickly, and we need a council that can manage the growth. We are finishing a new comprehensive plan and will be addressing zoning and ordinances that are outdated. City staff are working hard to keep up with the growth and have done a great job through very difficult times. The next 4 years will be instrumental in setting the city up for the future. Do you want a council that knows how to work together, knows how to respect and compromise when they don't agree, has proven experience in working with and for people and getting things done? A council that understands cooperation and collaboration with whomever is on the council, whomever is the mayor, and who supports the city staff and public safety workers? Or do you want a council who is angry and divisive, that has members attacking the sitting mayor and members that undermine the city staff and do not support our firefighters or police officers? Those who choose to publicly call out sitting council members and candidates as liars in a mass mail postcard without anything based on facts should not be seen as fit to lead our city. It's unconscionable and embarrassing. I have been called so many things during this election, and I understand that sometimes comes with the territory. But when it comes to untruthfully misleading and ugly and personal, I take issue. My integrity and honesty are paramount, and I will say here, I am not a liar. We as a city have a choice to make. Do we want a positive council that can cooperate in moving the city ahead, or a council filled with anger and negativity? I believe Ocean Shores will choose well.
Thank you. Candidate Canary.
For 4 years, I have served you, humbled to be your voice. You and I will continue to work together as part of a team to establish a shared vision for the future and develop those goals and plans that make that future possible. My opponent has many years of managing people. He says he's proud of it. He sees his people management skills as solid reasons for why he should be on council. I disagree. Overseeing daily business deals and managing people isn't what we do as council members. We represent you, not manage you. All government power comes from the people. You are not to be managed like underperforming employees. You are not the property of the government. RCW 42.30.010 states, the people of this state do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies which serve them. You are to be represented like the free-thinking and independent people that you are, and you need people to stand up for you. Rising to that challenge is what will make our city a place that we will be proud of. I am humbled to have served you for 4 years, faithfully performing the duties of council member. The next 4 will be filled with civic engagement as we work together to fulfill our shared vision of the future. Thank you for your vote November 2nd. I am Susan Canary, position number 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hayes.
This election is not about me, and it's not about the other candidates sitting up here this evening. This election is about you. Each and every one of you. It's about what every one of you wants for Ocean Shores and have the power to change and shape the city how you imagine it to be. 3 of the candidates sitting up here right now have all expressed that they thought the mayor was doing a great job, and she has their support. If you like lawsuits, the mismanagement, and the way the city's been ignoring its responsibility, then by all means, vote for them. You will get the results you desire. On the other hand, if you want change, real change, then vote for the independent candidates, the ones that will listen to you, the ones that will represent each and every one of you. If you elect the voting block, you might as well fire the rest of the council. They won't be needed. You will have created the three most powerful people in town, the ones that will decide your future for years to come. We are on the cusp of making a long-lasting change for Ocean Shores, changes that will account for the wants and needs of every citizen, a change that will mark the beginning of a new, inclusive Ocean Shores. Unless you as a group tell me different, I will not support new taxes, lids, or user fees. We already pay enough. We need to live within our means. Thank you for coming out and participating in our election process. It's all of you that will make the difference in Ocean Shores. I'm Patrick Hayes, and I'm asking you for your vote for Ocean Shores City Council, position number 7. Good night.
Thank you. And candidate Hartman?
I want to thank everybody again. It's humbling to have so many people support me. I know that I have much to learn to be a great council member. I love working with all kinds of people because I always learn something in the process. I love having friends from both sides of the aisle. I love to listen to people that have more knowledge on a topic so I can learn and make better life decisions. I want to bring those same values to the City Council. I can't pretend I'm an expert on all subjects, but I can assure you I know how to work with others to come up with the best solutions for the city, listening to all the stakeholders. I have many personal priorities for the city, but ultimately what will matter is matching those priorities up with the other council members so that we can address them together and be unified in our focus. The next council will be working with the current mayor and a new mayor. It will be important that we establish good boundaries between the council and the mayors so that we can help the city staff any way possible to get through the business of the city quickly and efficiently. We have a strong city administrator and great department heads. We must let them and expect them to run the city and their departments well, and we must support them and offer any assistance necessary. We must be accountable to the citizens and listen to their concerns. As a council person, I know we can't fix everything, but we can be a conduit from the citizens to the city staff to help the city prosper. My style is collaborative, not combative. I've been dealing with the public, employees, and labor unions for 35 years. I have the experience to help. I've learned to build bridges, not burn them. I've learned that it's important to be able to reach out to everyone and be able to work through all the issues sanely, item by item. I pride myself with having a phone full of contacts that I can reach out to for advice, solutions, and information.
Time, candidate. Thank you. All right. So I appreciate all of you coming here tonight. This is quite a large turnout, and I want to thank you. So I want to honor some of the comments that were put in the question box and make sure the candidates hear that, and I'll have a couple closing words. So candidates, just please take note some of the issues that didn't get precisely addressed, but some of you did touch on them. Your stance on camping lots, budget prioritization, particularly around public safety and sidewalks, and addressing the South Fire Station needs. If any of you have a conflict of interest because you come from the private sector, HR issues within the city, so HR management issues within the city from the city executive's office, qualifications for the job, if your management style can adapt or adjust to public management, public service management versus private industry management, and how you will be present in Ocean Shores. Those were some themes that came across, and I want to honor what was asked. So you all do have your candidate pages and potentially other opportunities to speak to the community, so please know those were concerns that were brought up. Again, I want to thank the audience. I want to thank our sponsors that made this room available to us tonight and allowed us to have this kind of spacing and this type of AV and all of those good things. The Windermere Real Estate, John L. Scott Real Estate, North Beach Realty, and Coldwell Baker Ocean Shores Broker. Convention Center staff, thank you so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Our timer, Definitely was very appreciated. I hope you guys all are kind to her. She was very honest and reliable. Our local media partners. This is my first time meeting you all, and thank you for being here and being part of this. The Ocean Shores branch of Greater Grays Harbor, the advisory committee members that are here tonight that have helped make this happen. Candidates, I think it was, I can't remember what candidate said it, so I won't attribute it to the wrong person, but the courage to come and run for office is not for the faint of heart. So thank you for being here tonight and caring enough about your community to run and go through this experience. And then again, back to the community, you clearly care about this. You are here tonight on the not most awesome of weather nights, and you have chosen to be here and listen to all of this. So thank you so much for coming. I'll let you go now, and we'll see what happens after. I think ballots drop on Friday, if I remember correctly, so watch your mailbox. Take care.